Hey, welcome people on the live stream. Turn up my volume so I can hear myself. That's why I don't like these headphones as much. My other headphones aren't working right now. So, wow. Okay, that's too loud. Okay, here we go. Let's make sure the stream thingy thing goes off and gets properly detected and push. Da, 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 da. Is it this one? Not yet. Rabalulu. There we go. And then we got a boo boo. Okay. Put this back over here. Okay, we're going to start by playing the break we ended with, and then I'll join in where we were. I think it was this one. I am tired. Wait, where is it? 05? Oh, no. It's 0826. This one. Okay.
What? No, that was bad. Oh, no, that was bad. No, I don't like that either. Once upon a rainbow, you were on the floor, eating the bugs that you found upon my face. No, that's what? Bye.
And we're back. As I said, for me, it's many hours later. For you, it's probably just a minute or two later, unless you also paused the show, went and did other stuff, and came back. Which, if you did, awesome. Anyway, first up, this will be the media segment. I'm going to talk about one movie and one book. I think it's becoming clear as the weekend progresses that absent some new breaking news, the last segment is going to be about the Epstein stuff because the MAGA implosion appears to be growing. Again, no new actual revelations on anything actually Epstein related, but the reaction in MAGA world seems to be spiraling. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, a movie and a book. So the movie is Why We Fight from 2005. This is a documentary, so it's probably unlikely that many of you have heard of it. It was, I guess it was at Sundance. It's like one of these film festival release films. It did win a prize for documentary there, I guess, and also won another award in like the information and culture category in Germany, and it won a Peabody. So what is it? I said what it was, right? Why We Fight, 2005. Yeah. Here's the synopsis from Wikipedia, and we'll go from there. Excuse me. Now I have to note that to edit. Sorry for anybody watching the YouTube version. Nice cough there. And not done yet. Okay. Synopsis. Why We Fight describes the rise and maintenance of the United States military-industrial complex and its 50-year involvement with the wars led by the United States to date, especially its 2003 invasion of Iraq. The documentary asserts that in every decade since World War II, the American public was misled so that the government, incumbent administration, could take them to war and fuel the military-industrial economy, maintaining American political dominance in the world. Interviewed about this matter are politician John McCain, political science and former CIA analyst Chalmers Johnson, politician Richard Pearl, neoconservative commentator William Crystal, writer Gore Vidal, and public policy expert Joseph Sirinconi. I probably murdered that last pronunciation. Sorry. Why We Fight documents the consequences of said foreign policy with the stories of a Vietnam War veteran whose son was killed in the September 11th, 2001 attacks, and who then asked the military to write the name of his dead son on any bomb to be dropped in Iraq. A 23-year-old New Yorker who enlists in the United States Army because he was poor and in debt, his decision impelled by his mother's death, and a military explosive scientist, An Duong, who arrived in the U.S. as a refugee child from Vietnam in 1975. Hold on. Hello, I was recording and you're on the live stream right now.
What?
I was recording and you're on the live stream right now. What's up?
I'm so sorry. I was just going to tell you I can't put us on a wait list while I'm driving.
Okay.
And I apologize because I forgot.
Okay. We'll chat when I get here. Are you saying you're close enough that we need that already? I'm not quite ready.
I'm on side, just short of
Okay. I'm trying to record my segment. I'll when I'm done, I'll waitlist us. You may or may not already be home by then. Alex is awake. I don't know if he's going to want to go.
Everything broke up. I didn't hear what you said, and I apologize again for interrupting you. Being Curmudgeon's corner. Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, let's read that last paragraph again so we can edit that together. Those of you on the live stream can also see, like, my eyes are watering like crazy. I don't know what's going on right now. So I'm having trouble, like, seeing to read the stupid thing. And the AC just came on. I mean, nobody's actually on the live stream, but anybody who watches that video later, which is rare, but whatever. Okay. Why We Fight documents the consequences of said foreign policy with the stories of a Vietnam War veteran whose son was killed in the September 11th, 2001 attacks, and who then asked the military to write the name of his dead son on any bomb to be dropped. A 23-year-old New Yorker who enlists in the United States Army because he was poor and in debt, his decision impelled by his mother's death, and a military explosive scientist, An Duong, who arrived in the U.S. as a refugee child from Vietnam in 1975. So that's the synopsis. Basically, I mean, it seemed like a well done enough documentary. It seemed well put together. production values was good. It sort of tried to make its case. And there were good interviews, and there's lots of good backing information that his thesis is at least part of the picture, in that you need to give the military something to do, and you need to have something for all the military contractors to do and build and make money and blah blah blah. But I kept thinking, honestly, through the whole thing, that I'm sure that factors in some places, but this made it seem like they were trying to convince you that that was the whole thing. And I just don't buy it. I don't even buy that it's the biggest thing. Obviously, lots of people make money off war and want to make money off war. But in each one of the situations they talk about, and it really was mostly about, the 2003 invasion of Iraq. I remember 2003. I was there. I mean, I didn't go to Iraq or anything, but I was paying attention to the news, and I was following what was going on. And look, yes, there were lies about this, but from other interviews I've seen from the participants in that and the people who drove us to war, I honestly believe that there was actually a lot of self-delusion in there. Like, the whole, there's weapons of mass destruction. A lot of the people involved believed it. It turned out to be completely false. And of course, lots of us were pretty sure it was completely false. And there were plenty of warning signs that it was pretty false. And they selectively paid attention to things that supported their case and ignored things that didn't. And there were, there were motivated informants who made up stories because they wanted to get the U.S. involved, and all of this kind of thing. And look, even when there were, even for those who sort of like, maybe they knew that they were lying about weapons of mass destruction, they had other larger agenda things too. I mean, a lot of the neocons felt that George H.W. Bush had betrayed them by not going all the way in the first Gulf War, and that this was unfinished business left over from the first administration, and they needed to deal with that. They needed to deal with Iraq, and that there were sort of geopolitical power play things about advantages in the region if you took over Iraq and if you controlled that. And I think there certainly were a lot of people who knew, look, fundamentally, that it was sold to the public. And if you were paying attention carefully and parsing words carefully, no one in the administration ever said Iraq was involved in 9/11. But they said things in a way that left the implication that dealing with Iraq was part of the retribution for 9/11. When you parse them carefully, it was sort of more like, if we leave Iraq alone, they could do something like 9/11. Or, after 9/11, they've supported terrorists more generally, not just the, anyway, there was a lot of, manipulation where, if you do the careful parsing of language, like lawyer style, you realize that they're not saying what the casual observer would think they were saying from not paying very much attention. And look, that's a theme. I think you're getting a lot of Trump supporters right now who are like, wait, what do you mean he's doing XYZ? Well, that's what he said. Well, that's not what I thought he said. You weren't paying attention. But anyway, I think, and especially if you expand the scope to every decade since World War II, I just never bought the thesis here that it's all about, you know, the American public was misled so the government could take them to war and fuel the military industrial economy, maintaining American political dominance in the world. Yeah, the second part. The first part, the fuel the military industrial economy, I think is something that the people involved would say is a beneficial side effect. Of course they like that. Of course they want that. But I don't think that's the primary goal. The second part there, maintaining American political dominance in the world, well, of course. I don't think any of them would even deny that. I'd say they'd say that that's one of the primary goals of American foreign policy and should be. Now, you may disagree with that statement, but I think probably, both, the foreign policy establishment, both Republicans and Democrats, it'd probably be a general consensus that yes, it's in America's interest. Really, dog? Waiting for the dog to stop. You done, Judgy? You done? Settle, please. I think the foreign policy consensus, both Republicans and Democrats through all of those years, is going to be that, yeah, of course, to serve American foreign policy interest, you want America to be as dominant as possible. Now, you're going to have disagreements on exactly what that means, economic, political, how is influence, are you using soft power? Are you using hard power? Are you doing this, whatever? But I don't think the notion would be controversial that, well, yeah, of course, like if you're serving American interests, you're going to want to be able to exert influence all over the world as much as possible. Now, we now have the growth of sort of the isolationist views as well that say, no, let's worry about home and the rest of the world can do whatever it wants. And we're starting to see some of the consequences of that. And even there, it's mixed. I mean, we still attacked Iran, But anyway, I just fundamentally don't buy the premise. I think there's all kinds of the military industrial part of it anyway. The dominance in the world part, sure. But I don't think that's surprising or interesting in any sort of way. I think that's like you would expect that kind of behavior on any large country. I mean, if you're like some tiny country, maybe you don't have visions of grandeur where you're going to take over the entire world, but and it may not be take over. I'm being, it's exerting influence for your own benefit. But anyway, Because I just think there are all kinds of other factors. There's the personalities of the individual presidents involved. There's what they want politically. There's just generally like what is the situation going in at that moment. In the 2003 example, again, I honestly feel that George W. Bush wanted to bring democracy to Iraq. And like that's part of his vision of like what he wanted and the benefit that he thought would be great, and get rid of the dictator, bring in democracy. They'll greet us as liberators, blah, 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 blah. And in an alternate universe, maybe that could have worked out better. But of course, we had no idea what we were doing, which seems typical in many of our foreign interventions, where we come in and whatever our stated goals are, we screw them up royally and end up with something different. Anyway, it is a good enough movie. It was thought provoking. I will give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in this kind of thing, watch it. This does not mean I agree with it, but it's thought provoking, and you listen to what they have to say, and then you can decide. Like, again, I was not convinced, but it just seemed too simplistic in the end to me. It tried to boil everything down to one or two factors, where I think the real world is complicated. And there's all kinds of reasons for everything, and it's multifaceted, and all kinds of things come together. It's not a simple, this thing caused that. It just boils it down way too much. Okay. And then the book. Complete Shift. First of all, this is the first book I've talked about in a while. The whole book stream here has slowed down dramatically. I am now reading absolutely everything out loud with my son. Have been doing this for several years now. I've actually got, three. I got 3 streams related to books. Okay. I've got my main reading stream, which is I alternate a fiction and a nonfiction book for myself. And this comes from my big master list of books I might be interested in reading someday, which have so many thousands of books, I will never complete them in my lifetime. And I have that. I also have a list that I'm specifically choosing to read with my son. I don't have a big master list. It's sort of like we went through the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and then the Lord of the Rings series. Then we finished up a book that we'd been reading together that he had been assigned for school. I'm forgetting. I'm jumping ahead of here. We'd read the Lord of the Rings, and then we were reading the Hitchhiker's Guide series. So these were sort of like things I remember enjoying when I was younger, around his age, and let's read them together kind of thing. And the one I'm going to read is in the Hitchhiker's part. Subsequently, we did read a book that he was assigned for school, and now we're doing some stuff on the Earthsea series, if any of you know those, but we'll get to those in good time. But this book is the 6th and final installment of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. So increasingly inaccurately named, as they said. The last one of these I talked about on the show was mostly Harmless, which was the last one actually written by Douglas Adams. And when I reviewed this on the podcast, I mentioned that this was a 1992 book, and he he ended it in a really depressing way. He basically killed all the characters. He put them all into really like depressing scenarios and then killed them all. And that was the end of the book. Um, and he expressed later that he kind of regretted that, and he was at a dark time in his life or whatever when that happened, and maybe he would write another book to sort of not end it that way. And then he died. He died at age 49. So he was not a old guy, but this next one, they brought in another author to sort of bring it up. It was Eoin. I don't know how to pronounce this name. It's Eoin Colfer. Anyway, they brought him in. Was given permission by Douglas Adams' widow to basically fix that bad ending. I want to say like tie off loose ends and stuff, but a lot of the loose ends were actually tied off by killing everybody. But sorry, spoilers for that previous book, Mostly Harmless. But anyway, this one came out in 2009. So years and years and years after Mostly Harmless, which was 1992. And look, the whole series, like this is one of those, and I've talked about this phenomenon before in terms of this particular book series and also in terms of movies, where the first one, maybe two or three, are really unique and interesting and have something, and then it's like, okay, now you're just doing the money grab, and sort of like they become less interesting, they become very repetitive. It's sort of greatest hits. This one is even more so than the last couple in this series. I'd say first of all, they do some sort of random thing to pluck these people out the moment before they are killed so that the story can go on. And then there's a story. I mean, the story's kind of interesting. I sort of I won't read the whole plot summary, but like they're taken off to a colony of surviving humans, and which is of course weird, and having an internal war, and they're shopping for a new god, and so they're and one of the main characters is friends with Thor, so they try to get Thor to be their god, and then there's like stuff going on. It's all rather silly, which of course the whole series is rather silly. But this really felt like, okay, we're gonna bring up fan favorites from the previous books, especially from the first few books that were the ones that are really more classic. And we're going to talk about, we're going to bring them back up. We're going to reuse that idea, that trope, that character. We're going to bring them back. And you can tell, it's an author sort of trying to emulate the Douglas Adams style. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. And, and then since they reanimated everybody and brought them back to life, they now have other things to close off, and there were some things that weren't completely resolved from the previous books. So yeah, they look, bottom line, thumb sideways at best. This seemed it seemed unnecessary. I mean, I didn't like how they closed off the last book either. I wish you'd ended it some other way, or maybe just ended the whole damn series a couple of books earlier. Because they were declining in quality and interest over the course. If you're being a completist about this series, read it. If you're not, don't bother. It wasn't outright bad. I'm not giving it that thumbs down. It wasn't painful to read or anything like that. It just wasn't. It didn't have like it didn't have what made the first couple of books interesting. It didn't have that new unique flavor. It didn't have like the I don't know. And I've said even for the first couple, they to some degree they seem to be ones that I enjoyed more as a teenager than I do as a 50-plus-year-old guy. And some of that may be a product of the time. Some of that may be a product of my age and what, the target group. I don't know. But yeah, it's just sort of, it exists and it wraps up some things. Some things still aren't like fully wrapped up in a way I would consider satisfying, but I guess that's okay. Uh the yeah. Anyway. That's it. It's called And Another Thing. Did I ever actually give the title? And Another Thing. ... From 2009, the sixth and final installment of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Of course, they say, and final, this is one of those franchises where every couple decades they're going to do something new with it. I kind of doubt there'll be more books. You never know, I guess. But it's one of those things where every once in a while they make a new TV show or a new movie or whatever. But I imagine those are going to, if they happen again, they will, as they usually do, start from the beginning of the story. I doubt any will ever get so far as to get to the events that happen in this sixth book. Really, anything really interesting happens in the first two, maybe three books. And then, I don't know. I can remember the things happen in the other books. It's just, I don't know. It goes downhill as the series progresses. What can you say? Okay, that is it. We're gonna go get some food now. My wife and I, and maybe my son. I don't know. And I have to hurry because I have a call scheduled. So I have to make sure to eat and be back in time. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. And so we're going to play a break. We're going to play a break. We're going to play this break right here. And then I'll be back and we'll talk about the Epstein stuff, I guess. Unless there's some other cool breaking news that changes everything. Here we go. And that is it. That's kind of abrupt ending on that break. Anyway, bye for anybody on the stream, and we'll continue with the next thing probably in just a few hours. Back after this? What back? Why am I saying? Whatever. Here you go. Hitting stop.